Committee Substitute 1.
Clerk, please report.
House Committee Substitute 1 to Senate Bill 150.
Gentleman from Lincoln.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Committee Substitute 1, I'm going to quickly try to go through that, and I'll go section by section. First, in Section 1, it says that school districts shall notify parents of any health or mental health services that relate to human sexuality and get parental consent to any of those services before administering. Next, it says any discussion in regards to these issues shall be discussed with the parents. KDE shall not require or recommend policy or procedures for the use of pronouns that do not conform to the biological sex of a student. Shall not require school employees to use pronouns. Makes an exemption for sharing information when there is neglect or abuse. Prior to doing any well-being assessments or questionnaires, the district shall get parental consent. It exempts medical and mental health procedures in cases of emergency. In Section 2, children grade 5 and below shall not receive instruction or curriculum on human sexuality, and children grade 6 and above may only receive that curriculum after parental consent. Section 3 lays out guidelines for the use of restrooms, locker rooms, and shower rooms, and says that districts shall develop a policy for the use of these facilities in accordance with the guidelines laid out in this bill. Section 4, no health care provider shall perform surgery on a minor for the purpose of changing their sex, shall not administer puberty blockers or hormones for the purpose of changing a minor's sex, exempts surgeries for those diagnosed with sexual development disorder. If a licensed health care provider violates this section, they shall have their license revoked after the proper hearings with the board. It allows for civil action to recover damages from injuries suffered as a result of violating this section before the latter of the date the person turns 30 years of age or within 3 years from the time the person discovered the injury or damages. And lastly, allows a health care provider to conduct services at any time to assist a patient in detransition from a drug or hormone. That is what the committee substitute does, Mr. Speaker, and I would move for adoption of House Committee Substitute 1.
Motion is for the adoption of House Committee Substitute 1. Is there any discussion on the committee sub? Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson 42.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to be recognized to make a motion.
You're recognized to...
Based on Rule 22A, I would like to be able to make a point of personal privilege. Based off that rule, Speaker, I've been aggrieved. And so, Speaker, I want to make a point of order.
Have you been aggrieved, lady from Jefferson 42?
Yes.
State your grievance.
Senate Bill 150 is a bill that is reprehensive to the LGBTQ community. And as a black queer woman, the first openly elected LGBTQ individual in this body, the language in this bill is disrespectful, has been very harmful, and very sickening. Not only this piece of legislation, but all the legislation in which this body has taken up this session. I've heard individuals say that they have been oppressed. How dare you? As a black, queer, masculine presenting woman, how dare you use the word oppression? not only myself, but other LGBTQ individuals in this state have been impacted and continue to be impacted by the ridiculousness of the words that have been coming out of this body. We know, and we have seen the polls, that most Kentuckians are against these anti-LGBTQ pieces of legislation. We know that there is a small percentage of kids in Kentucky who identify as trans. We know that this piece of legislation is an attack on a very, very, very small population of people. I stood at a rally earlier this session with the Fairness Campaign and other individuals, and I told them, I am here to stand in the gap. I stood yesterday, and I didn't say a word yesterday. My colleagues yesterday stood in the gap for me. And today I stand back up, standing in the gap for not only the LGBTQ community, trans kids, but all of the disenfranchised Kentuckians. Because let me tell you, if we continue to let hateful legislation like this pass in the state of Kentucky, it's then going to be poor white individuals that's going to be impacted. We have heard Dr. King say many times, we heard him say, and we hear people repeat it all the time, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I don't sit on the education committee. We recessed for lunch. Folks came in. We did get word that there was going to be some type of announcement made. We didn't hear the announcement. The microphones weren't on. The only way we knew that education was meeting was because the words on the screen. We get into education committee. I'm not on there, but I went, and the chair was very clear. We're going to move this really fast. Our members barely had an opportunity to be there to say that they were present. It was very clear that this bill was trying to move without us being there. With a topic that is this big and we know that has been controversial, why would we only allow that committee to be 30 minutes long? It's disrespectful. There's been a lot of things that's been put in this. I'm not aware. I have not had a chance to look at it. I know a lot of members in here have not had a chance to look at it. I know the folks in the gallery have not had a chance to look at it. And the people at home have not had a chance to look at it. I've told people many times that it's very interesting that I have become an elected official. I don't like politics. I've come here to make sure that we are creating good policy. And what we have been doing is politics. Mr. Speaker, I would like to make a motion to lay this bill on the table, and I request a roll call vote.
Lady from Jefferson 42, first of all, your motion under 22A is only appropriate during motions, petitions, and communications, but certainly what your words were just considered part of the debate on the floor. But just to be clear, that was not under 22A. The lady's motion to table the bill is not debatable, is not amendable, requires a simple majority to lay it on the table. Motion is to lay it on the table. Those wishing to lay it on the table, vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay. Roll call is open for your vote. All members voted. Clerk will take the roll. Being 22 members voting aye, 73 members voting nay, the motion to table fails. Lady from Jefferson 42.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would continue to talk on this bill, but I haven't had a chance to read it. And I tell my constituents in District 42, and I want to tell the Kentuckians, that this is not the way we should be governing this fast pace. We're in the last days. This is not it. And I will also tell them this hateful rhetoric and this hateful legislation is not the reason why I chose to serve the people of Kentucky.
Chair recognizes the lady from Campbell 67.
Thank you, Mr.